Ladies and longs, June has been an interesting month. It's the month where the greatest game of all time launched. I'm currently cooking up a larger video where I decided to 100% all of the achievements in Furry Shades of Gay, and on June 17th, I wanted to replay Crash Bandicoot 4. It's dick time. But since Xbox is a little bit slow, I decided to try out my only other option I had left, and that's Remedy Entertainment's newest game, FBC Firebreak, a multiplayer FPS that admittedly I was too slow to realize is set in the Control universe. You know, Control, the game that makes the Mary Jane missions in Spider-Man PS4 actually fun. Now, much like the terminally online long that I am, I was very much aware of FBC Firebreak from day one, when it was revealed all the way back at the Xbox Partner Preview from 2024. The only game event that didn't make me end up vomiting that year because of its thankful lack of Jeff Keighley. And upon watching the game's trailer, I thought it looked like it had been a decent amount of fun, but nothing really all too special. And that's when it was revealed that this was Remedy Entertainment that was making the game. And immediately, my skepticism was through the roof. Remedy Entertainment, you know, the brain behind great games like Max Payne 1 and 2, Alan Wake 1 and 2, not so much Quantum Break, and the game that this entry is based off of, Control. And you know, these games, they're primarily single-player games, and the fact that this is where they decided to put all their effort into after making something that was truly amazing like Alan Wake 2 already was raising a lot of red flags for me. And seeing that this would be the second time I cover a multiplayer exclusive game from a company that primarily specializes in proper single-player experiences, the prior one I looked at not too long ago being Foam Stars, a game that's probably nowadays in the same ditch as Concord at this point, the devs behind that train wreck actually making peak in the form of the Nier remake, FBC Firebreak wasn't really looking all too hot for me. But hey, I'm always down for developers trying new things, and the game was coming to Game Pass and PS Plus day one, so there was really no harm in giving it a go. And then, much like Concord, this game pretty much went radio silence for me until the day of its release. And upon the game's release, it would seem that my skepticism was warranted. And after playing around close to like 3 hours of the game myself, I can say without a doubt that this is probably one of Remedy's worst games that they've made. Only second to Crossfire X if anybody remembers that they actually worked on that game. Now, I understand that my yapping must be getting on everybody's nerves, all due to the fact that I'm probably taking forever to get to the actual point, and my response to that type of mindset would be, yes, thank you. Your inconvenience amuses me. But what is FBC Firebreak all about? Well, you see, I don't know. As in, I have actually no idea what the actual premise of the game is. All that I do know is that your objectives are set in the old house from Control, and you need to go from stage to stage clearing all sorts of objectives playing as someone's Fallout OC. But me half-assing that explanation doesn't warrant the $40 that this game is currently going for on Steam, so allow me to go a little bit more in depth. FBC Firebreak is a first-person shooter where you and up to 2 other people, I'm sure somebody is going to have an aneurysm by that small lobby size, pick one of 3 available classes and get dropped into one of the game's 5 missions that each houses their own objectives. And of these 5 missions, you get Hotfix, where you need to repair transfer fans, Paper Chase, where you, no shit here, have to clean up sticky notes. Yeah, it seems to me creativity sure as hell went to shit with this stage. Ground Control, where you need to transfer these radioactive pearls into the shuttle over here. Frequency Shift, where you have to clean off this hardened Pepto-Bismol from the stage. And finally, Freezer Duty, where you need to find and activate these heaters and bring them over to these frost anomalies in order to eliminate them from the stages. And once all of those objectives are done, you haul ass back to the beginning of the stage's elevator and extract your asses out of there. And once that's all done, you get to see your very epic gamer numbers go up that allow you to get more slots for perks, buy new weapons and swag from this currency that I completely forgot the name of, and by also collecting resources that you're gonna need to get even more perks, which I never found whatsoever because meh. And that's pretty much the gameplay loop of FBC Firebreak. But I do want to get into a little bit more depth here because surprisingly this game has got one unique feature, and that's the different kits you're able to take with you on these missions. Now, currently at launch there are only 3 kits, namely the Jump Kit, the Fix Kit, and the Splash Kit. Now, what I like about each of these kits is that not only can it be used offensively, but each of them serve their very own purpose when it comes down to the objectives in each stage. For instance, with the Jump Kit, you can use that to electrocute enemies, but you can also use it to jumpstart electrical components around the stage. The Fix Kit gives you this massive ass wrench that would make Ratchet blush that you can use enough more fun way, and namely bashing people's heads in, as it should. Not that I think that this thing does any damage whatsoever, as my footage showcases here. Why don't you just fucking die? But its other more practical use follows my principle of when something's fucked, beat the shit out of it until it works. And with the splash kit, you can actually use it to take out some fires in the stages to make it way safer for you and your teammates to traverse. Each of these kits also have their own specific secondary fire, only 2 of which I actually ended up using myself. The wrench gives you this dash that can knock enemies on their asses, or in my case, I use it to clear gaps much faster. And with the splash kit, you can either charge it up so you can lob a much larger splash of water, or by holding down the left trigger, you can make it into a rapid fire water launcher thingy. It kind of reminds me of one of those new high-tech water cannons you can buy that'll probably take out a child's eye. And as for the jump kit, I sadly didn't use it outside of my first time playing it, so this is going to be a very special kind of interactive part of the video. Yeah, I'm trying to innovate a little bit, as you can see. Now, you see, how this works is since I didn't use the secondary fire on the jump kit, what you can do is go into the comments section and write down what it does for me, and then that'll end up boosting my interactivity stat, which will in turn allow me to level up to the rank called the YouTube Pale Threshold, and then after that, I can unlock my Greedy Fuck achievement. Yeah, you know that video that's been making the rounds on YouTube these days where you get to control it with your keyboard? It pales into comparison what I'm doing, but clearly I digress. But when it comes down to the kits, yeah, these are probably the most interesting things about the game. And when it comes down to the sidearms that you have in each of these missions, they're more of your conventional weapons like revolvers, SMGs, shotguns, rifles, you get the gist. And I find it even more funny that these are normal guns and not like that cool futuristic weapon Jesse uses in the main game, just regular ass guns. I mean, at the end of the day, the Second Amendment is still safe and sound with these, so there's not really that much to complain about. And when it comes down to the shooting, I mean, it's serviceable. You aim, you shoot, you kill, normally within that order. And unfortunately in this game, they do tend to skip the other 2 steps that happen after killing, those steps being incarceration and then a court appearance. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Have you played any shooters since 1992? Then yep, you should have a pretty good idea how the guns feel in this game. You also have grenades, and yeah, that's it. This is as standard of a first-person shooter that you could possibly get in 2025. And now when it comes down to the overall gameplay as well, you know, other stuff like the enemies and the stages, I think they're fine. I think the stages, when it comes to a visual standpoint, is the most unique because since its inspiration they draw is from Control, you know, one of Remedy's most visually distinct games, there's really no problem on that side, but the structure of the actual stages are pretty basic. You know, you have different rooms, you have zip lines to traverse the stages much easier. You have black tumors. But when it comes down to stuff like the enemies and the other game's mechanics, yeah, this is a team-based FPS, alright. I'm pretty sure Treyarch would be proud. The problem with this is definitely something that you've played before. You go through waves of varying enemies to make sure your ass doesn't get murked. When one of your teammates fall during combat, it's up to you or your other teammate to haul ass to them and pat them on the back and give them words of encouragement to get them back on their feet. Yeah, it's not like jabbing them with adrenaline or giving them CPR or something like that. This is literally you bitch slapping someone awake like this is a cartoon. And I mean, when you do get a little bit fucked up, it's not all doom and gloom. And all of that is thanks to the fact that there are 2 stations at the beginning of each section of the maps, one of which being a shower that clears up all stat debuffs and restores your health. I feel like I should mention though, I don't get why this game has got such a humongous emphasis on stat debuffs. I mean, you get the basic ones, you can get electrocuted, you can get set on fire, you can get irradiated, and depending on which kit you actually have, like for instance if you set yourself on fire but you have the splash kit, you're actually able to splash yourself in order to get rid of the fire debuff. So I mean, I guess that's kind of cool, but the stat debuffs that you end up getting at the end of the day doesn't really serve any other purpose aside from, oh no, this thing's gonna start draining my health over a certain amount of time. It's really nothing all too special, so I don't know why this was implemented. And the other one being where you can restock your ammo by completing this Helldivers 2-esque minigame, one that is frequently used whenever you need to do something related to the game's objectives. Also also find it appropriate to mention that to add a little bit more depth into the gameplay, these things are very convenient for you and your friends when you get a little bit too fucked up during the matches, but there are some instances where they're actually able to jam up and you need to fix them, and on top of that, they can deplete their supply after a certain amount of uses. So I mean, don't think you can rely on these things all too much. And I mean, on top of that, you also have these files and stuff scattered throughout the stages, which gives you more of that currency, which, thinking back to it, I think that might just be that. This is intel, which would make sense when you research your different perks. And also, you can find these tiny ammo boxes scattered throughout the stages if you need some ammo on the fly without having to run back to the station. But yeah, that's about it. The only other thing that I feel is worth mentioning is the fact that the game is rather interesting on how it handles death. You see this icon over here? These are the amount of redeployments that you have when you die in combat. The amount that you have going into a mission depends on the difficulty that you chose at the starting of the mission. And yes, for the sake of the funny, I actually wanted to see how the hardest difficulty actually was. And funnily enough, we managed to breeze through one of them without a hitch, so make with that information as you will. So when you die, you can either wait to get revived, or say to hell with waiting and just go out on your own terms so you can redeploy on the spot, which will deplete the amount that you have left. But get this, if you deplete all the redeployments, all you need to do is wait for a certain amount of time, then it'll recharge a new deployment. So if someone is good enough to survive while the rest of the team is down, you can just pretty much wait for your redeployments to recharge, and you could possibly get the whole team back as if nothing happened. I mean, that isn't something that's happened to me personally while we were playing, but it sure as hell could have, because just look at this absolute unit staying in the showers taking on the hordes of the undead. It's true that not all heroes wear capes. They get their costumes from Builder's Warehouse. And hell, it feels from time to time that death itself is just primarily a slap on the wrist instead of a circumcision with a butter knife, because when you die, the only thing that you end up losing is the files that give you more data so you can research more perks and buy more shit. So if you're like me and you don't really care about something like that, then there's really no consequences for biting it. And when you do die, you can just go back and pick up your lost resources. So death is really more of an annoyance than anything, depending on how seriously you're going to decide to take this game. And that's probably all there is to it with FBC Firebreak. I should probably mention that upon beating the stages, you're able to unlock 2 more stages for each mission, which has you traversing different zones. But the only issue with this is that the objectives in each new section is literally the exact same mission from the last one, only this time you need to do more of the original mission. Like for instance in the heat one, where the starting zone you might only need to fix 4 fans, in the second zone you do the exact same thing, only now there's 7 fans you need to fix. The only new thing is that they're stage hazards, but really nothing worth replaying once you've already seen the stage through the first time. I mean, the most interesting thing comes from the 3rd stage. Now, I've only primarily done this on the heat map, but there is one final special objective, for instance in this one, where you have to neutralize the furnace by charging these pods up and then sending it off to the furnace via these zip lines. And once you do that, you need to haul ass behind the wall or something because it's going to send out a flare, and that's kind of interesting. But if you think about it, if you decided to end up replaying this, that would still need you to have to redo the very repetitive missions before you get to this point. So I didn't really end up liking this. I've really tried my hardest to see what the other 3rd stages could have been. The one that I ended up trying to do was the shuttle mission, where you need to transfer these radioactive pearls into this shuttle. But then I realized that the objectives in the original 2 zones are a little bit too repetitive, so I have absolutely no incentive to realistically go through all of these stages because of just how boring the base objectives of each stage actually are. I would have just preferred that they keep different missions throughout each zone and not just recycle the original mission from the first zone, only this time you have to do it more. I also do end up feeling that that could hurt replayability for the game. But what I also feel like would have been probably a better choice is just have all 3 stages from the beginning. That way you don't need to treat this like those special missions in Metal Gear Solid 5 where you have to essentially redo the exact same mission only with a higher stipulation. And honestly, that's literally it. And you might have noticed I wasn't all too positive in this video, and I mean, thank you very much for acknowledging my pessimism. The doomer mindset needs constant care. But all jokes aside, FBC Firebreak is just mid. I wouldn't call it terrible like something like Mind's Eye, a game that I also just particularly think is painfully mid, but objectively it is actually a pretty shit game. I just really think that this game is just very uninspired, and everything that this game does aside from the kits have been done much better in other games. I mean, let's have a look at the comparison, shall we? Horde shooter with objectives throughout the stages. Call of Duty Zombies and Left 4 Dead. One stage where you need to pop zits and transfer material into a shuttle in order to finish the stage. Deep Rock Galactic, anyone? A game where you launch into a map, complete objectives either alone or with a bunch of buddies, only needing to run back to the game's entrance in order to extract from the stage, all while taking place in the universe of an already pre-existing IP? This is the Outlast Trials. Mini games to complete certain objectives by completing a series of button presses. This one in particular looking like it's from the trampoline minigame of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Helldivers 2. Everything that FBC Firebreak does has already been done and has been done a lot better in other games. As well as the fact that this game provides so little content for the price of $40, I just cannot really recommend this game whatsoever. Whether you're a casual player that enjoys a good horde-based shooter thing with a bunch of buddies, or even if you're a fan of Remedy's games. I can, however, recommend that you give the game a look on Game Pass and PS Plus, but for adopters who don't use subscription services, best to steer clear for this game for now. Now, there is a particular reason to why I think that this game ended up like this, and it's like I said before at the beginning of the video. Remedy is best known for their single-player experiences, and the games that they were able to make within what they are experienced in are some of the most visually and mechanically innovative games ever made. I mean, come on, Max Payne 1 and 2 literally revolutionized the bullet time mechanic in future games. I think personally that Remedy is a fantastic company, but I feel like they chose to jump into a game style that they weren't 100% too experienced with a little bit way too soon. Do I think that Remedy should just give up on attempting to be a part of the multiplayer scene? No, not at all, but I really do think that they should rather do what From Software does and dabble into multiplayer mechanics in the already pre-existing core games before entirely committing to this gameplay style altogether. Now, this video was actually a little bit longer than I expected, so yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you guys want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, you can do that by either becoming a Patreon or a channel member. And speaking of that, thank you very much to top-tier channel member, as well as top-tier Patreon supporter, Mr. Aftonboy, Poncho, Eric, and my brother RWSJ Productions. I have been John from the channel with the freakishly long name, and you guys have yourself an amazing day. And I will see you guys in the next video, hopefully where I have to finish playing Oompy Poompy games. My mental health has been on a steady decline ever since making that video, but goodbye!